Hello and welcome. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network and everything we do. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and UConn legendary men's basketball player Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, a car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, the Finch Firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut. He will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, helps them reach their full potential, be the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. To work with the best, he has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut. Go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. All right, and here we are for Broker Than You, and I am so excited for this episode because I have the Dream Team on. And yes, that is the Dream Team right here. The man himself, the king of real estate in Erie, Pennsylvania, Laban Marsh.
That did feel like a walkout kind of introduction.
Yeah, I feel like I should have the Bulls music playing right now.
Yeah.
We have the entrepreneur himself. He is involved in many projects. He is the owner of Freshfold Laundry Co. in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. No other than Nedvonne Young.
What up?
Fresh.
Good to see you guys. Happy New Year.
And last but certainly not least, he is the Remax agent, the number one Remax agent in the state of Connecticut, Mr. Matt Newsy. I love
best introduction I've ever gotten. Thank you.
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves it.
I feel like I need a UConn podcast studio like you guys have.
No, Matt,
Put it on your to-do list.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
I'll just hold this up for the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Newsy is awesome.
It's the most athletic I've ever felt standing in front of that kickoff team.
I love it. Thank you for joining us, Matt. We talk a little business. We talk real estate on here, entrepreneurs, and you fit every category. And you've been doing great in Connecticut. Just in general, how would you say the market is right now in Connecticut?
We're still a bit of an outlier. It's still a seller's market. In the town where my office is Trumbull, Connecticut. There's 8 houses on the market. In normal times, we'd probably see 30 to 40. So we have no inventory. There was also a little bit of a bump from New York City again, people leaving the city. So we're small town Connecticut, Fairfield County is still doing really well. It's unfortunate for buyers. It's super competitive. The last week of the year, I listed a house entry level Trumbull, which is about 500, and we had 20 showings and 4 offers. So, if you could get the inventory, you're going to do all right. But it's hard to get. It's competitive.
Wow. And Laban, what were you saying about that? Were you saying the same thing with inventory?
It's been interesting because a year ago right now, I would have echoed very similar, statements from this area. But within the last 6 months, well, I shouldn't say 6 months, within the last 3 to 4 months, as we are seasonal, as I know, Matt, you are too a little bit because we're in the Northeast. It definitely slows down. There's like a bell curve for January, November, December, January, February tend to be slower. Whereas we do have inventory coming to market and it's being more saturated. It's on the market for 30 days. Like I put one business under contract that I've had on the market since November in New York State, a storefront that went under contract December 31st. And then I just put one under 2 days ago that, we went in, I would say about 90% of asking price. Didn't even get a counter. They accepted it. So, you know what I mean? Now, I believe part of that comes from, just as I'm sure you're seeing, if sellers are going to keep getting what they're asking, sellers are going to keep bumping their price up until they don't get what they ask. So we, about 3 months ago, started to see, and I had one on the market that's supposed to close in, like I personally owned one. And Matt, this was where my business coach 2 years ago said, hey, if there's not inventory, you own rentals. It might not be a bad idea to start liquidating. And I have done that. The last of which I'm selling will close in a couple weeks. But I listed that, and I can say it's close enough to closing, but I listed it for $270, which it's been a rental. But my first offer was $230. And they came up. I countered at, I think, $260. They came back at $240, and it died there. 2 days later, I get a verbal offer, which is worthless, for $200. So then I'm like, dude, am I that far off? Later that night, I get a written offer for $260. So I took it. So like we're starting to see some of these buyers come in kind of playing their games like, hey, I'll just offer you a little above assessment and see if you take it. So our market is definitely already catching the, what I would call rebalance, where it's becoming, 30, 45 days on market isn't abnormal. Now, if you list a home aggressively and it's super nice, they will still sell really quickly. But we've found that, a lot of those have been sold, and the ones that are now sitting for 30 days need a little bit of improvement. So I'm excited to hear that for you, but I know it's frustrating for buyers who've been looking, and doesn't matter how many offers they make. It's like, they can't seem to get it. And as an agent, correct me if I'm wrong, it's really hard to guess what it might sell for when there's multiple offers. We use what's called an escalation clause. Have you ever done that? Do you use those?
Yeah, we have escalation clauses in our market, but yeah, it's tricky. I will echo one thing or contrast one thing. This January, as compared to last January, or even call it December, since we have the data, if the house isn't perfect, it's not going to get the influx of activity. Like there's a ton of buyers just waiting for the right thing because they've been waiting for so long. They don't want to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So if it's the right location, the good condition, you're going to get 10, 15, 20% over ask. But if it's not the right location, if the property is a little challenged, it will sit. So I do want to differentiate. If you price it right, it shows well, you put a little effort into it, you're going to do exceptional. But if you don't, like the buyers have become so jaded by the market that if it checks all their boxes, they'll overpay for it. But if it doesn't, they'll just pass on it.
They won't even make an offer, you're saying.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They'll just, they don't want to sacrifice. They've been living in their at home for 3 years.
So one of the things that I've learned with sellers is, because if say it's been sitting and now the first offer comes in lower and the seller gets all frustrated, and I said, hey, seller, don't be mad at this buyer who liked it enough to make an offer. If you want to be angry at the guys that came in and didn't even think it was worth making an offer. That's
right. Don't be insulted. Don't be offended. It's
right.
Yeah. So Yeah, we'll see how the year plays out. Again, like you said, it's seasonal. There's definitely seasonality in the market.
Yeah.
I was just on the phone with somebody. We had their house on the market last year. It was an odd house, had some real challenges, built into a hill. We took it off Thanksgiving, left it off through the holidays. I just spoke with her. I said, you know what? There's only 6 houses on. Let's get it back out there, and let's not wait until March or April where there might be more competition. So.
Wow. And he's
real
saying,
quick, that's another great point, because I have sellers say, hey, I want to list my home, but should I wait till the spring? And I tell them what you just said. Hey, we have really low inventory in the winter months, and the buyers that have been looking are still looking. So I'd never like that we're going to pull it off for a few months, just because as soon as, and I've had it before where, in fact, my brother Lucas had a buyer's agent call him. They were so mad that the seller took the home off the market until spring, that their agent the buyer reached out to the seller directly, and the seller stood up for my brother and said, hey, listen, we took it off the market for a reason. I don't want to sell it to you now, but you can come back in the spring. So you had this buyer kind of see, oh, they took it off the market. Let me try to sneak in without an agent.
You know the business better than anybody. Like this time of year, that kind of stuff happens all the time, because 12/31, all of those listings expire and the sharks are swarming. Hey, I've got a buyer, the seller. So I just try and secure as much business as I can. At this time.
Well, Fresh and I were just talking about this, and why do you, Fresh, going to you, why do you think most people sit out this first quarter, and how investors win by acting early? Because like they're saying, it's a seller's market right now, and they're sitting out.
It's one of those kind of like old cliches of the early bird gets the worm. So it's one of those things where I would say, I would strongly encourage people at the end of the year is a perfect time to be thinking about and planning for obviously next year and trying to get in. And so prime example, what they're talking about, it's always two sides, right? From an investor standpoint, like the house that we live in, that's how we got this house. And we got this house the house that I live in, on a great deal, because it was on the market. We're real estate people, so we didn't need an agent, but it was on the market, and then it was off, and it had been off the market. So we took that opportunity to go off the market. We went directly to the sellers, and it happened to, we took advantage of knowledge of just knowing about situations. Our situation happened to be the owners divorced, right? They had probably raised their kids in this house. They're divorced, and the wife had moved, I think, to New York, and the husband still, the man was still here, and it was just like a house in limbo in a sense. So they wanted it gone, but nobody really, they had no more vested interest in it, and we were able to get it at a good deal, because we took advantage. And believe it or not, we actually closed. We closed, and it's funny, we agreed to terms probably right before Christmas. And I think we closed officially it was January, and we moved in a house, I think it was like February 1st, but we closed in January. So we literally took advantage of an opportunity of knowing, okay, it was during kind of COVID, so it was a seller's market. It was a buyer's market. So we were in a good position, and they, but we took advantage of knowing that, all right, this person's here, this person's there, and we really did kind of attach it to, and we didn't kind of lie about it. We told the truth. We took advantage of the fact that, look, we were younger. We were starting to raise our family. We literally wrote a nice letter just stating hey, we know you raised your family in this house and you did this. We would love to do the same. We think this is a perfect place for us. So, and I had my wife write it. So we pulled that, to send it to the wife. And, she probably was like, get this thing done. Next thing we know, within 2 weeks, we were already, and really kind of negotiating terms. It was just like one back and forth. they said something, we countered, and we agreed to terms, and we got it below market, and it works out well. So I would say from an investment standpoint, or even if you're not an investor, get in early. We always talk about this, like, do due diligence, and it will help you in doing your due diligence and having some type of plan, literally planned out. We're going to try to do this and see how it works out. It worked out perfect. So when you do things like that, I think you at least have an opportunity to execute something, opposed to going in with a hope and a prayer.
And I'm just curious, Fresh, because basically what you described is, in Pennsylvania, we call it love letters, right? And literally that is now being frowned upon because they think you're pulling at the emotional versus just buying the real property. Matt, does that come up at all with you guys, the love letters?
Yeah, we still see them. I tell my sellers right away, I don't read them. I recommend that, if you want to make a business decision, don't read them. And I also tell them, and this is just from my personal experience, the better the love letter, the more difficult they're going to be. It's one of those things that, we accepted their offer and they said we love the house and it's going to be an easy process. Then they do their inspection, and then the uncle shows up to the inspection, and the father, and the contract, and they're not easy. So,
but Matt, you make a great point. And Fresh, I don't think you were trying to do that, but I think Matt, I tell every seller this, because as the market shifts, but seriously, you're exactly right. And the last two sellers I've had, buyers did that very thing to them. Like, even on the feedback, when I give feedback, when I'm showing a home, they'll ask, is the price too high? Is it about right? Is it too low? And I'm very cautious, because if I know my buyer's going to make an offer, I don't want to say either the price is right or too low. You know what I mean? You have to kind of focus on who you're representing in that regard, because I don't want to say, oh man, my buyer loved it, and then they come in 40,000 under. It's like, well, wait a second. Kind of like what you're saying, Matt. You wrote this sweet letter that you loved it. You got the inspection done, and now you want 10 grand from the under at. So it is one of those things where I think, as an agent, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think, right, make a business decision, but also know that we negotiate all the way to closing. Because it usually starts with the initial offer, but you get in, if there's contingencies, you get into the inspection. It's like, well, this was wrong, or this didn't have enough insulation. I had to put insulation in my attic for a buyer's request. And then it's one of those things where, do they really love the home, or were they just trying to get you to accept the offer, knowing full well that they were just going to offer you what you were asking, and then after the inspection beat you up by the 10 grand they wanted off?
I see a lot. I just came to my mind, recent multiple offer scenario, and a buyer had submitted a love letter with their offer, and my client read it, and they said, they could take this, it's like a Chat GPT letter. It had all the dashes in it, and it was disingenuous. But when I represent buyers, if I walk through the house and I say, wow, I look on the disclosures, they've lived there for 47 years, and I tend to have a really good pulse of my client. I'm not meeting them at the house for the first time. If we say we're going to do something and proceed without inspection negotiations, we're going to. Otherwise, we're going to walk from the deal, right? So in those situations, because my reputation's on the line, I don't want to submit this beautiful letter telling you it's going to be the easiest transaction you've ever had, knowing that these people are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So I just went. But for the right situation, it works. There's a colleague, I forget the state, it might be California, but wherever that they were telling me, they actually blank out when they present offers to a seller. They blank out, or have to blank out, the buyer's name due to fair housing, so that there's no discrimination based on what they might assume their whatever is. That's pretty extreme, but
it's really interesting because, and I think we've even talked about it on the show before, where in Pennsylvania, they're starting to pass laws that require entities that are purchasing to be fully disclosed. Fresh, I think we talked about this, right?
Which makes sense. I get that.
Right. You're like, I own property is 5140 Buffalo LLC because that's the property address. But I own it with my father-in-law. And like, nobody knows that unless you dig into PA small business name. You know what I mean? So I think that's an interesting perspective because, right, you don't want to discriminate, but at the same time, I think there is a lot to be said for a buyer like Fresh who comes in and says, listen, we want to take care of this home just like you have. And a lot of sellers, I just ran into one at the office yesterday. She was so upset that they sold their home and the new buyer came and did a bunch of stuff. It's
and changed it. Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna give you a really good example. I'm actually dealing with it now. I represent a family of 4. They're selling their parents' estate. It's a historic house in town. It's 5.5 acres. It's beautiful. Built in 1842. It's incredible. They only wanted to sell it to an end user. They didn't want to sell it to a developer. We had $1 million cash offer, close in 5 days. First day on the market, they said, no, it means too much to our parents. We want to sell this house to someone who's going to enjoy it. So we get an offer. They write a letter. Okay. This is a good story. The letter says, that we've been looking for years and this house is speaking to us. We love it. We have a disability and this house is perfect. And their parents were disabled, the whole 9, right? Accept their offer. It was the same $1 million offer. They do their home inspection. Now there's caretakers that live in the house that took care of the parents. And these caretakers happen to speak Spanish. And the buyers are speaking Spanish in the house. And they're talking about how they're going to chop up the back half and they're going to subdivide and get 2 lots out of it. Right.
Oh,
so here they came in with this beautiful letter, and the caretaker tells my client, it gets back to me, and they asked for something on the home inspection, and we said, no, we're good, we're all set. And so it was enough of a decline that they said we're going to back away. But it goes to show you the letter they sent you was unbelievable. It would make you cry. And then come to find, so it's a tricky, it's a slippery slope.
You get both sides, right? You're gonna get the people that are gonna be disingenuous are gonna be that way.
Yeah,
right?
they are.
Get some people that are like, that are wholehearted, that mean to do the right thing.
When you come hat in hand and you write a letter that you can tell, I can tell the difference. Like,
you've been in the game long enough.
You can tell, but it's an interesting and it's state by state because. Soon we're not going to be able to do anything. I read an article about, to your point, a buyer's agent giving feedback is now working against their fiduciary responsibility to their buyer client. Like, geez, if I can't give my own opinion, forget it. I'm done.
Well, and some of our feedback says, is it the opinion of you or your buyer? But there's no way to differentiate. It's like, well, I think it's a great house, but my buyer thinks he wants to offer 40,000. Yeah, it is. But here's another reason, Matt. I have always told our agents, do not attend inspections. If you represent a buyer, have the buyer go with the inspector. Because if you, as an agent, notice something that he points out, and now you don't recommend they correct it, it could be a liability on you. Now, so you kind of want to play like ignorant and just not show up. That way, whatever the inspector points out to the buyer can address. But as soon as you hear something that should raise a red flag, you are now obliged to do so by attending and witnessing that because the buyer doesn't necessarily know. And I've had different consultants say that you should actually attend the buyer's loan application because you want to be working in their best interest. So it gets kind of crazy. And being a broker and you go through the continuing education, they remind you of the scrutiny you have to have. And it's like, man, there's a lot of people doing some shady stuff.
Yeah. And the irony is that it's the easiest license in the world to get. There's literally no barrier to entry. It's a 60-hour course,
high school education.
And then you as the broker take all these risks for these people running around playing realtor. It's a huge issue. That's why I've not stepped into that role.
Oh my God, that's crazy. And Fresh, you talked about this, especially with the market the way it is, with the lack of inventory, having discipline, patience, and you have to have a good deal selection in a tighter market. That makes a difference, right?
Yeah, I think they just the scenarios you just talked about was kind of a prime example of doing that. Like, so how I forgot who was mentioning like about like how some people would just go, all right, well, I've waited this long, I could wait a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
That's the discipline about not just jumping at, okay, the inventory is low. Okay, I'm still, just because it's low, it's only 5 houses. I don't have to pick one of those 5 houses, right? Because there will be another opportunity that comes about. So that's a part of the discipline of trusting your numbers, trusting the research you've done, trusting the professional you hire, your agent or your broker that you're working with. If you really understand it and you feel really good about what they said, because you got 2 sides, right? He just also mentioned that it's a very low barrier entry. Like anybody can do it for the most part. But here's the thing, but not anybody can do it well, right?
That's right.
There's levels.
It's the only career. You tell me one other career where you can help somebody buy or sell a $500,000 investment and then go drive Uber at night or during the day.
Yeah,
it's comical.
Yeah,
and there's people research their cell phones more than their realtors.
Yeah. That's the thing is once you have a title of authority, this is what happens. Like, people tend to pay a title of authority, right? It's the same thing happens. It happens in politics. It happens in corporate. Once you have a title of authority, right? Being a realtor or an agent, it gives you a title of authority. So people just tend to, for the most part, listen to authority, or what they perceive to be authority. And that's where I think that's a lack of discipline. I think you need to know, you should be able to check, just like how people, I can't, even with doctors, people just take whatever a doctor says. One of the things I rarely ever listen to what a doctor would have to say about anybody that I know, anybody in my circles, as it pertains to nutrition, right? I'm not going to knock, doctors go to school for many different things. They specialize in stuff. I wouldn't even, for the most part, question on what you specialize in. But most doctors take, I think, a 1 course on nutrition, and they do a semester of nutrition, 1 course. So they're not well versed. They're not a dietitian. They don't know those things. So I'm going to take that with a grain of salt and do your research. That's what you should do with most things. But most people, they don't have that discipline. And I think this is this is a great time, where we are, to be more disciplined, to be more patient, and to be very selective about what you're doing. Like, be selective about the professionals you want to work with. Be selective about, where you want to go, the market. Like, just because it's inventory out, say from just a residential standpoint, doesn't mean you should do it. So one of the biggest things that I tell people to do, the way that I look at properties and from an investment standpoint, and I encourage homeowners to do it too, my main focus really is the school district. I just go, okay, what's the best school district? Because it's tried and true. People are going to move where, that are going to raise kids, usually in a house. They want to be in a good school district, right? So they want to be in a good school district. And historically, those school districts, the property value raises, right? There's gonna raise, more people are gonna go there, you're gonna pay more tax. It's just what happens. So that is a very simplified litmus test for a good place to invest. So that's kind of like what I do and what I've done historically, and I haven't failed at it yet. Most people should. That's very simple. Just, okay, where's the best school district, right? Go by the high school, because usually it's a cluster thing. So let's go high school, and then it kind of trickles down. So wherever you're, greater schools, the high schools, 8, 9, 10. Okay, more than likely, and historically it's been that way. It's probably going to stay that way. And then that's where a good place to go ahead and buy, from my experience. I don't know what you guys feel about that advice, but I think those are good things to do in terms of following.
Connecticut's costly from an investor standpoint.
Yeah.
It's really, but I do agree, right? If you follow the school systems, and that's where the market is still the hottest. A lot of my clients are investing elsewhere, in markets that are a little bit easier to get into. We just have very high property tax. Personally, I've invested in Memphis. A partner and I own some houses down there, very low, easy to get into. They're not huge returns, but they're safe, somewhat safe. So yeah, Connecticut. I haven't done an investor deal in Connecticut in over 5 years. Wow. It's been in reverse. They've all been liquidating and exiting. Like I had a property in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I bought it for $87,000 about 8 years ago. We sold it last year for $265,000.
What part of Bridgeport, man? Which one? Because you got
North Ave. You know Torian Sowell?
Yeah, I know Torian.
Yeah, he's North End. It was on North Ave.
The reason I say that because I'm not that familiar with actual. I just know I think it's like northern Bridgeport and southern Bridgeport. I believe the southern part is but that's the one that went through a transition. So another one of our teammates who done extremely well in Bridgeport. He left Bridgeport, but it was Terrence Smith. So
he's never called me, but I know he buys a ton of real estate.
We'll have him call you, Matt.
Matt, I was curious about you investing in Memphis. Do you invest in Memphis because you have another agent down there that manages?
No, so I've got a client. He was a client in Connecticut, and then older gentleman from Beverly Hills, super wealthy guy. He's probably got like a $20 million real estate portfolio. And I managed his properties in Connecticut. He gave me a chance to buy in. So we owned some multifamilies together, a condo. And then he searched out a market in Memphis. He did this about 8 years ago. The company was called Memphis Cash Flow, and it's a one-stop shop. They buy the house, they rehab it, they get the tenant, they manage it. And you can buy a house there, and they have different zones, A, B, and C, anywhere from 170 to 240. The property taxes are like $800 a year. It's a very pro landlord state. Like in Connecticut, you know, the refrigerator breaks. You got to put every time. They travel with their appliances. So it's I bought into it. I mean, he had a lot of appreciation. Like I think he's up to 30 houses down there, and he got in for most of them at 170 to 180. They're all now worth 240, 250, and across the 30 units, he has no mortgages. So cash on cash is like 6 or 7% return. It's not huge, but
I would appreciation. It might even be. You think that's where I would bet it might even be a little higher then.
No, you know what? I'll tell you something. I'll tell you here. This is the scam. The management fee is not cheap, but
Can you tell me what that is about?
If it depends on how many units, but it could be 10 to 15%.
Right,
however,
we charge 10.
So here's the catch.
Turnkey though, right? Everything is like
they're turnkey. But here's the catch. Here's the catch. If the tenant is late past the 10th of the month, they have a late fee. That late fee goes to the management company. Which
directly
here in Connecticut, we're very flexible with our tenants. Like, listen, as long as we're paid in full by the end, we don't, turnover kills us, right? Every time someone leaves, it's $5,000 to freshen it up. So it starts to add up. Also, if you need a maintenance repair, they're not bidding it out to 3 different people. They're giving it to their buddy who's the electrician. When I own property in Connecticut, I can control the cost a lot better.
Yeah, so it seemed like, I don't know if the name of the group that does what you do, because a number of people was doing that for many years. Like,
there's a lot of them. Yeah.
Memphis is one market, Detroit is another one. Because Detroit was way down. You could get houses back in the day like how it was in Brooklyn, and places where you could get a place for $1 and just pay the taxes. Yeah, it was bad. So it was bad. But
I think Dan Orlovsky still owns his condo in Detroit.
Thunder Dan probably does.
It's worth $1.
I was gonna say I don't know why you would.
The condos? No, Detroit. You look at Detroit now. Detroit. I have a frat brother that really has done a lot of. Been instrumental in economic development out there. So, but I just remember when I was cutting my teeth back early in the mid like 2000, 2008. Around that time, a lot of stuff was going on. And even in the early 2010s, Detroit, Memphis, I'm trying to think of some other markets where it's like kind of you can get in low barrier entry. And there were people, and they do this all over, but the company's talking about is probably multiple companies. They're taking advantage of people just want a certain return on their money, right? Yeah. So you correct me wrong. His buddy from Cali they're just like, I put my money there and I'm just looking for the return of my money. I don't have to think about nothing, do anything for the most part.
Exactly. And it's great for 1031 exchanges, right? Like you have
Yes.
$500,000 to spend, just go buy 3 houses down there. You're going to get a return. You do nothing. But you know, it's and then now he's looking into, I'm going to say the name wrong, but Milwaukee, Ohio. Is that, I don't know how to.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's how like he's a super wealthy guy, but his average purchase is like 200 grand. He's all over the country looking at these markets, like Hot Springs, Arkansas. He was in, yeah. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Cincinnati, Ohio, like Cincinnati was another one.
Yeah.
And what else is because you got Cincinnati and somewhere in like Kentucky. So the markets exist all over, and people are doing it because for like his partner, we look for what we want. He just wants, like you said, it solves a problem. His problem, if he has a 1031, he get that problem solved. I just want some, a solid cash on cash return. I want a good return, something that's comparable to the market. So I would say probably overall, he got to be getting more than the 6%. It has to be, because you just put your money in the market. But at the same time, no, you know what? I correct myself. Let me. It may still be
the rents are not very high. I mean, I can show you the numbers.
For cash on cash, you're probably right. But as far as ROI,
if we financed them, it'd be 20-30%.
Yeah,
but they're all cash.
Yeah, but also he's probably also taking, you get all the other benefits. He's taking advantage of all of the other tax benefits.
Oh, huge. Huge. He knows that game. He knows that game very well. He's doing well. But the multis that we own in Connecticut, we bought 275 to 300. They're now 600,000. However, the rent roll, the rents are up a little bit, but you would never buy them back at 600.
See, and that's where
no sense.
Even in Erie, I wonder how investors are getting started, because the investments make sense for me because I've owned them for 10, 15 years.
Right.
Everything's under 4.5. In fact, part of the reason I'm selling the one, and in fact, the one, Matt, have you ever heard of Fortune Builders?
No.
They were out of Connecticut about 15 years ago.
I heard that name.
Oh, dude, they were, and it was they're going to sell you the program and tell you how to do all this flipping and all this other stuff. But it was after one of those seminars that we bought the one that's under contract right now. And in January, the next statement I get, I'm waiting to see what the rate goes to. But I've had it at 3.86 is the interest rate on this thing. And so it's under contract to be sold, in part because Fresh, we've talked about my adjustable rate commercial loans that are 15-year notes that adjust every 5 years. And 5 years ago, rates were so low, it went from like 4.5 to 3.8. But now it's about to go from 3.8 to 7.9.
Yeah,
it changes the cash flow completely.
Skyrocket.
So I think that's where it makes it more challenging for people getting into it. Even if you pay cash, it doesn't change the way it's going to cash flow necessarily. Like, our rents keeping up with the appreciation and value of homes, and in our area, it has not. The value of homes has far outpaced the increase in rent. Now, tenants are going to tell you, yeah, but my rent's gone up like crazy. It's like, yeah, but anybody looking to buy a home? I mean, a home that you would have bought 3 years ago for $250 is now going for $325. So, and now that is starting to stabilize.
Is that because of the lack of inventory, or just because of the market?
It was because of the lack of inventory that it was creeping up so quickly, which is what I'm sure Matt is still experiencing, like he said, in those turnkey homes. But for homes that need a little bit of work, that are trying to price themselves at the turnkey homes, those are the ones that are sitting for a bit, and you're going to have buyers come in and sellers that are just, especially this time of year, they're sitting vacant, they're paying taxes, they're paying utilities.
Yeah.
They just want them gone. So that, again, is another reason for buyers to come in. If you look at a home and it's vacant, that seller is more desperate than a seller living in the home. Maybe not, but 90% of the time it's vacant, and who knows how long it's been vacant, getting ready to. And that was another thing with me. As soon as I took that home off the market, getting ready to sell it, my $1,450 a month tenant had moved out. So now you got the carrying cost of not receiving income. And so there is strategy in getting ready to liquidate investment property, because, again, the best thing to do instead of selling it is to just refinance it and start the clock again. But again, when you're looking at going from a 3.8 interest rate to a 7.9 or a 6.5, it just changes your
That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's just what it is right now.
Yeah.
Matt, I forgot to ask you this. Do you do rental properties like Laban does? I know Laban has a rental property business.
Yeah, so I do. I manage my own, and I've got investor clients that own stuff. When the rents come up, I definitely help them out. It's just it hasn't been a huge segment of the business, but if you get Terrence Smith to work with me, I'll be the flagship sponsor for your podcast.
So
I'll double whatever my buddy Pete Finch is paying.
But will you do the commercials like Pete Finch? That's the question.
I can't take two lefts out of my office without seeing his billboard. I love that guy.
Yeah, I know. He's better.
I worked with him last year. I sold his house last year. He's great.
I call him. He's the Better Call Saul of Connecticut. That's what I call him.
Dude, I'm in it for the rap videos.
Laban, I mean, you have been pretty crazy busy since the new year as well, right?
Yeah. It's been.
What is that involved? Selling or buying property or your rental property?
It's selling them, but also I'm representing clients now. And this is part of, I guess that was the thing, Matt, like part of the thing my business coach said is it was slow for all of us. But what I found, and as broker, I've not sold as much as my mom or my brothers because I'm running the business. So since I've been listing a lot of my own properties, I've been in the market, right? And so when I'm in the market and when you're doing things like you run into clients, buyers and sellers. And so I've got three sets of buyers right now, and everything I have listing is pending. But it's just been crazy busy because like I'm in New York State, so that's right. Pending December 31st. Well, then the agent who sold it said, "Hey, you better change it in the MLS because within 24 hours." And I'm in PA's MLS all the time. I completely forgot with the new year to go in, so I went in this morning a week late, and hoping I don't get penalized for being a week late with doing that, but. It's more all of that, once you get it you're showing homes for months and months, then you put it under contract and it's like, well, make sure they get the inspection, make sure they apply for the loan, make sure.
You got to do all the due diligence.
It's babysitting to the nth degree because you're not just babysitting your client, you're babysitting all the vendors that need to stay on top of getting this thing through the door. And then I have the agent saying, well, why'd you put it for 60 days out? Well, with financing, it's going to take 45 days. And Steve, how many times have you heard me say under promise and over deliver?
Under promise.
Because if you write a contract for 45 days and it doesn't close for 49, you're the worst person ever. But if you put 60 days and it closes in 49, you're a hero. So it's just trying. But this agent who was a newer agent, and he's like, well, why 60 days? And I'm like, well, dude, it's how long it takes realistically. So I think going back to Fresh's point of, do you know the industry? Because when I get an offer to close in 30 days with FHA financing from a newer agent, I'm like, hey, dude, there is no way this deal is getting done between inspections, appraisals, and closing this thing in 30 days with an FHA loan. There's just no way. So you'll have people thinking they're doing their client a favor by trying to get it closed quickly, when in fact, professionally, I know there's no way it'll close on time based on all of your contingency factors and just days in a week. So I think having a realistic expectation of the process, but and that's where I said it's when you're in it, you're busy 12 months out of the year.
Fresh, you had a question. How has everything been working out at your new location? And have you started, because I know you do the pickup service. Is the delivery service officially started yet?
Yeah. So pickup and delivery that's like synonymous. They're one and the same. I think what you might be referring to is the drop-off service, like people can drop off in the store.
Drop-off service, yes.
Yeah, the drop-off service in the store for this week or so. So in the next few days, just kind of waiting on. I was still waiting on some signage to kind of get out on the street so people could direct some people on the street. I had a shift. Something what held us up, believe it or not, was North Carolina. We had the whole big there's a lot of ICE agents out here, and they just kind of a lot of work.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. They were
ICE agents.
ICE agents in North Carolina. I'm telling you, like, so it was big. It really just kind of it deterred, like, even my kids' friends, certain people at school, kids weren't going to school. They were so, like, afraid.
Scary. Yeah.
Even like the guy who I'm partnering with with the location, he had to have signs out like no ICE agents without a warrant. Like, it was just all kind of crazy stuff. Like, so that impacts how you move. You got to make adjustments and you got to pivot. And that's just kind of how things go. So that's a little bit of ways away. But I think that's a big thing, man. And it kind of leads to, one of the things I was thinking about before. I think one of the questions I probably, would, hit you up with, Steve, is just kind of like, as investors or in people, or business owners, it can apply to you as well. Like, how do you, what you have to have a certain kind of mindset. Like, so what do you do to get your mind ready for, new challenges, new year? Like, all right, how are you approaching these things?
Absolutely. You have to set new goals. You have to be prepared for a new year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I would pose that to the group, like, what, for your new year, like, what are some key mindset?
Yeah, Matt, especially
things you have, for the year.
That's been killing it. So
yeah, it's not easy. I mean, even this is my 18th year. I think January is probably the toughest month for realtor. But what I try to focus on is my biggest source of business is my past clients and sphere of influence. So I do a lot in the community. So I'm revamping my community outreach, setting up different events here and there. I'm checking in with every past client, just whether they want it or not, just giving them a quick update of, recent sales in their neighborhood, checking in to see if they have a real estate question. I'm going through scrubbing all my leads from last year and conversations, sourcing where my business came from last year so I could double down, triple down on those efforts, researching new things, new online stuff. Like right now, AI is really taking over the industry.
Are you utilizing it like, for
I recently just aligned with a company that we get pitched by a lot of companies. This happens to be, a good lead. It's one of my closest friends from high school. It's his uncle's company, and they've had, years of success. And now in the AI space, really just trying to figure out how to show up in those AI searches, right? Before it was, how do we get SEO optimized, in the Google searches and all that kind of stuff. And now it's, how do you become the AI agent that shows up when someone's looking for an expert realtor in your town or location? So I've invested with them and we'll see. It's early to tell, but I think you got to commit to this kind of stuff for 6 months to a year to see if there's any traction. So yeah, it's really just having meaningful conversations with people, and that's what I like to do. And fortunately, you bring clients from last year. It's not like you stop at December 31st. You bring them from last year to this year. I've got listings that I'm prepping and buyers that I really just want to stay in front of, so that when the right house comes on the market, we can do something.
And Laban, you said the importance of this too with referrals. So I'm sure you always talk with past clients because you either get them to buy another home or you get referrals from them as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like 86% of our business
active in the community too.
Word of mouth. Yeah. In fact, tonight, well, first we have an annual huddle that we do the last Wednesday of January. And so I got to put together and present this. Basically, it's like a State of the Union address. It reflects on last year and then our goals for this year. So it's me diving into the data from last year and then the previous year, kind of comparing that, seeing where we're going. But like tonight, I was asked to be interviewed at what's called the Jefferson Society that brings in a lot of politicians, and Barack Obama's been here. And I don't get to speak in front of them, but they're interviewing me for
I want to be your
representative of Summit Township, which is where we live, have our businesses. I coach here. I serve on the sewer authority. I serve on
and you ran for something.
What's that? Oh yeah, I ran for state. I did run for state rep in 2018.
Yeah, there you go.
Please don't ever run for political office, especially if you own real estate. I mean,
I want to run for political office. Dude, I think I'd be great.
It is terrible because what you have, the only people who show up are the one issue people, like a guy that didn't like fracking. because he had 80 acres, and it's like, so he would just come and talk about fracking, dude.
Fracking is very.
They don't care about anything else but frack. So no, politics is terrible. But yes, Summit Township, I love. I'm a big advocate for it. And going to the point earlier, Fresh, with like school districts, I was also asked to be on a committee where they're talking about consolidating elementary schools. And like, I'm looking at it from a business perspective and a 10,000-foot view. But
you don't think that's a good idea?
Liz, it is a good idea. But when you drive around and see signs that say "Save Our School" from residents who have always lived here and don't necessarily think about the budget or how it's going to impact their taxes in 5 years, but like, all these schools are consolidating throughout the country because it makes more sense.
Yes.
I mean, I'm all for the intimate, small schools and small communities.
Yeah, they have 30 kids in a class.
Yeah, it doesn't even, and that's part of it. We have one more rural elementary school that has the fewest amount of kids, but the biggest, hey, we got to keep it. And again, it's like, well, this isn't, and this is what we tell sellers when they're going to sell their house. I know there's emotional attachment, but I'm trying to market a commodity. And it's really hard to do that, especially when Matt, has clients they've lived there 47 years, right? Getting them to understand that we're trying to help you market a commodity is that's part of my experience that helps these people versus trying to play into the emotional too much to where it analysis by paralysis. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, for me, it's January, as much as it's a slower time, and I've got 2 things under contract already, which is great, but it's just focusing on what you want to accomplish this year.
Setting those goals.
The data from last year. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then just always staying in it. But yeah, I think one of the best things you can do for top of mind awareness, I'm not a big fan of billboards, and maybe they work in Connecticut for Pete. But we talked about this before because
when you're a criminal defense attorney, it's a little different than a real.
It's different. But like for these agents that put up, like I was the #1 agent this year. It's like nobody knows what that means.
It's irrelevant. Billboards in our business, they're not.
No, and that's where I want to do a billboard that says, "I'm not #1, you are." Right?
You are.
Client is all that they care about. So. But I don't want to waste the $1,200.
You need to go ahead and do that. You keep saying
I'm not spending the money on that.
Laban,
they're like 5 to 10. They're like 5 to 10 grand a month here.
I just want to see it for a month.
They were like 1,500, 1,800 10 years ago for us. So I don't even want to know.
Different angle, same but different. You own property. I'm pretty sure you own property in high traffic areas. Put up your own billboard. Digital billboard, make money off of it, and still do it.
You make it sound like it's not permitting required for that. Now you got to go to the township. You don't know how to get
that stuff done. Like it's not. You can get it done, and it'll pay for itself.
Listen, I know, but I have a property right down the road from my office, and they will not let me to say, "Hey, Marsh, quarter mile up the road, no off-site signage." Like that this is the key. You got to go to your township and know what's allowed. I mean, I had a buddy power wash my house, put a temporary sign out front, and within 3 hours, a local truck comes by and picks up his sign.
So Fresh, quickly, 2026, what would you say, again, we talked about this before, but what would you say your 3 main goals would be for 2026 as we get started?
Main goals, make more money, right? But no. So actually,
talk to my cousin. My cousin's going to make you money.
Yeah. So, and again, and just touching on that, kind of joking a little bit, but at the same time, that's one of the things you want to do. But one of the keys for me, I think the key for me or anyone, a lot of people should look at it this way in terms of making money, is if you can help somebody else make money,
yes,
you'll make money.
And you do that. You always give back and you always collaborate and work with people.
So always help people make money. It's the, biblical principle, you give and you shall receive, so the more you give, the more
you put out there.
God loves a cheerful giver. So you want to be a cheerful giver, and, the more you give, the more you receive. So my thing is, I'm just looking to solve more problems, right? Me looking to solve more problems in 2026. I think it will, I know it will help in so many different ways. It'll help people that have the problems solve their problems. For some of those problems, it will help some people, and change their life from a money perspective or socioeconomic perspective, I'll benefit as well. So I know those things. So that's one of the main things to do. I want to from scale from that standpoint. I want to make sure I'm pouring. One of the biggest things is self-care. So I want to make sure I'm taking care of myself.
Which you're doing, yes.
Just take care of yourself a lot. Like just
very important.
Staying on top of working out, eating right. Getting the different checkups and things you need to do, and not getting caught up. A lot of times, us business owners or people like kind of work for yourself and things like that.
You work yourself
running, and you're like, okay, I'll do it later. I'll schedule this or that. Most of us are fortunate. I don't know, Matt, you married?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times we're fortunate enough to have these partners that be like, hey, you need to go. That'll help you remember to do some of these things, or make sure you do some of these things. But take the time for the self-care, eat right, do things that bring you joy and make you laugh, especially as us men. Be around other people that we can vibe with, admire, and because a lot of men, like, we're not as social as the women are. Like, women will have all of these groups and things we go to, but sometimes us men, we don't
organize as much to get together. We have to do more.
Which it might be like, we might have like, football stuff, but then football season's coming down to an end. And then what do? It's tough. You look at it. So it's tough. So I would say my goal is, again, personally, self-care. And in my self-care, again, I will be looking to give back to help some other people, especially other men to just know, like, look, man, you have people, you got brothers over here. You have people that are there investing in you. Succeed, because a lot of men be suffering in silence, man. I'm encouraging people take care of themselves, mental health. So that's big. So those are, those things. And again, I guess a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is around just kind of like building other people up, which I think in turns kind of will just kind of come back to. So that's where my,
I like that. I like where your head's at. So Matt, for people to get in touch with you, I'm going to put it in the show notes. You have a website, correct?
I do.
Okay. What is it? Just so I know.
newsyrealty.com.
That's it. newsyrealty.com. I'll put it in the show notes. And we'll get that up and going. Thank you so much for being with us. It was illuminating to listen to you and Laban talk shop. I didn't understand half of it, but I'm going to go get my real estate license, and I'm going to come work for Matt in Connecticut. He'll have some property.
Listen, dude, if you got your license, you could refer enough business to make a living without even leaving that desk.
I have been connecting too many people. Yes, I have. You're right. I probably could. But Matt, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your time.
Really good to be on with you guys.
Laban, you're the king of real estate in Erie, Pennsylvania. Freshfold Laundry Co. We're going to see his ad coming up right at the end. I know you guys are busy. You guys can bounce once I close out of here and run the ad, so you can go do your thing. But just remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life. Down south, we have Julius Williams and the Trench Mob. Julius trains offensive and defensive linemen. They compete in 5v5 tournaments across the country and also go to college showcase camps. Proud to say they were undefeated at every tournament they attended. Every college showcase camp, a member of the Trench Mob was offered a college scholarship. He's in Decatur, Georgia. If you want to work with the best, work with the Trench Mob, www.battleofthetrenches.com. We have Nedvonne Young, Freshfold Laundry Company, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, high-end laundry service. They have you book online. You put your laundry out in a clear plastic bag. They pick it up, wash, dry, fold it for you at Land Speed Records. And they also have an online subscription model, weekly or bi-weekly. They offer now a pickup and delivery service, so you can have your laundry done without leaving the comfort of your own home. Again, washed, dried, and folded for you and returned to you within 48 hours. They also have an expedited service. They have deals for college students in the area as well. Check out their website, myfreshfold-laundry.com. We also have James Whitfield of Luther James Insurance. For the last 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial planning. He specializes in insurance policies, mainly life insurance. He will make you a boatload of money, and he will do so tax-free. He understands the stress that comes with retirement planning. How much do I need? For how long? Do we have enough? Because fear of the unknown is real. To connect with James, you can go to his website, www.lutherjamesinsurance.com. Finally, we have Rob Hill of R. Hill Enterprises, Inc. Rob is an accomplished author. He is a speaker, and he also is an insurance mastermind, along with being a minister. Rob will put you in the right insurance plan for you. He understands the constraints and the rules that go with insurance, but he makes sure that you ask the right questions so you get the right answers. His main objective is to pull people's heads out of the sand, because that is what we're dealing with currently. To connect with Rob, you can message him on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or go to his website, rhillenterprisesinc.com. Again, he also does speaking engagements. He is a phenomenal insurance agent out of Chicago, Illinois, and you should contact him for any advice, even if you don't want to work with him.